This topic 2 video explains how to tell the model what to do and how it responds when we give it a command. We're going to use some of the files that were generated in the introduction when we ran the MYI-TA test, and we're going to show the basics of running the model in the simplest possible way, and then we're going to show how the model responds when it doesn't understand what we're asking it to do. So let's go to the Anaconda prompt. Here's where we left off the introduction. We had created this topic 2 directory, changed there, and we'd run the test. Now we're going to start using some of the commands that you read about in your reading before you started viewing this video playlist. The first one is the TALS command. This sort of gives you an output that's quite similar to what a Windows directory or dir command would give you. And what this shows is the files that were created by the test. The test.csv has got 2 people in it with just earnings, no other type of income, and no gifts, no relief amounts. So it's very simple. We're going to use that as input. The current law policy file is quite simple. It's 2 curly braces, which, as you know from your preliminary reading that you did before watching the video, that in a JSON, this is an empty JSON object. Now, what's the implication of that in the context of the tax model? Well, probably one of the key things you got to remember in this whole training experience is that the tax model understands what current law policy is. So when you specify reform, all you have to tell the model is how the reform differs from current law policy. So obviously in that context, if the JSON file says no differences between current law policy, then it means, as the name suggests, CLP, we are simulating current law policy. So let's use these 2 files, the test.csv. Let's run this year, 2021, and we're going to run current policy JSON, okay? That's the minimum amount you need to run the model, which you can see if you've read the help command earlier. Okay, so let's review what happened here. We press the Enter key, and the first thing the model says is the input data are not extrapolated in any way. So what do they mean by that? Well, let's look at the test data. So you can see these are 2 people, 2 filers for 2018 that had $100,000 in employment income and $400,000. Well, all the extrapolation means is that in 2021, when we did the simulation, we're still assuming that the employment income of the first person is 100,000 ringgit, and the employment income of the second person is 400,000. The second thing, it says we're not using any response elasticities. To remind you about this, what we did is the basic command, the basic requirements. All these things, extra things in square brackets are options, which we left out. So at the end, in topic 6, I believe it is, we're going to talk about how to assume that the tax reform generates some kind of behavior response among the filers. But we're not doing that. That's the very end of the training. So what it did is write 3 files, right? Whoop. So it wrote a dump output file, and it gives you the name, and a table output file, and a parameter output file. Okay, we're going to look at those briefly. Well, actually, yeah, let's no, let's not look at them. What I want to do is then show you how you would use one of these options, this one. Instead of just doing 2021, what if we wanted to do (2021) through 2025? Well, we would do this. Now, watch what happens. This is fast because we're only computing the results for 2 people, not hundreds of thousands or millions of people, which would take considerably longer. So what you see here was our command, and it wrote these 3 files for each of the 5 years, and then also showed us some summary results that are summarized across all the years. So what this means is under current law, the simulation, well, these are meaningless numbers because we have just 2 people, so they don't mean anything. We did current law policy, so sorry about that, there's no difference between the results for current law and the reform. Okay, so now we'll expand on this and get more practice at looking at the output and specifying the input files in subsequent videos. But I want to conclude this first topic 2 video by showing what happens when the model doesn't understand what you're telling it to do. Let's try to do the same thing, but not quite. What happens? Well, okay, so the first thing it says is the tax year, which we put in as 21, is less than 2018. Well, so what that means is you need a 4-digit year. So let's fix that. We rerun the model. Okay, now we're getting a whole bunch of errors. It's scanning over the input. It's saying the input files have to end in .csv. And it's also saying that the reform file doesn't end in JSON. So these are the 2 errors. Okay, so I'm going to make some more errors. I'm going to put the JSON on, but I'm going to change, and I'm going to put the CSV on. But it says, okay, you're okay. You've got a CSV on the input file, and you've got a .json on the reform file. But I don't know what testx.csv is, and I couldn't find the other ones. So finally, if we get it right, it'll work just like before. Okay. So the point of showing the mistakes here at the command prompt is that you shouldn't be hesitant at all to try your hand at typing a command, because this is not going to blow up your computer, and the model won't lose its patience with you. It'll simply say, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me to do. And it tries to give messages. it calls it an error. It's not really pointing the finger at you. It's simply saying, I don't understand what you're asking me to do, so I'm going to have to stop because I can't carry on. That's what the error means. It means the model had to stop before finishing its work. So we'll continue this in the next video in this playlist, and that's it for this one.